Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Unbiased TrailBlazers, where three of us here for the very first time are going to start a podcast and talk about the Portland TrailBlazers. My name is Alex, and I've been a Blazer fan for a little over 11 years. My favorite Blazer of all time probably is Damian Lillard, of course, but Wesley Matthews as well. I just loved how he played and the intensity he brought to all the games. Uh, I used to be a big Tracy McGrady fan, so I never really watched Portland because I was just always obsessed with Tracy McGrady. So once he retired, I decided I needed to find a team, home team, because I'm from Oregon. That's what I went with. I will pass it over to Fawad, and I'll let him go ahead, go for it.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Fawad. I'm from Toronto and I've been watching the NBA since 2000 and I've been a Blazers fan since well, first I started being a Dame fan when he was drafted, like from his rookie year. And I was like a Toronto fan because that's where I grew up. But then like after Chris Bosh left, who was my favorite player at the time, like my interest in Toronto kind of faded away and I like Dame more. So by like 2014, 2015, I started like considering myself like a full Blazer. And so obviously my favorite Blazer is Dame, but another honorable mention is Ed Davis. I loved him a lot. He was just like a pure hustle.
Ed Davis was pretty awesome, dude.
Hello, my name is Mike. I'm the international loan from the podcast. I'm from Portugal. I've been watching NBA since like '08, and I got really into Carmelo Anthony. And I've been watching more Portland basketball, like on and off since Brandon Roy joined. He's like my top five favorite player of all time. And since Carmelo Anthony joined the Blazers, I've been full on in the community, and it's my home when he retires.
Yeah, it's crazy is I love Brandon Roy too. It's so weird to not even think about him as like your favorite player. It's crazy that you said that. I didn't even like think about him, but he is legitimately one of the best Blazers, and he only played for a good
I think he had like
5 years
four
for us.
healthy.
What could have been?
Could have been
I miss
crazy what he could have done.
I missed most of his prime, but I caught maybe like the last. I have an older brother who's like a really big Brandon Roy fan. He doesn't follow basketball that much anymore, but like he really loved Brandon.
Brandon, the team could have been special when we had Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, Lamarcus Aldridge. That we could have been something extremely special.
All
Yeah,
of three healthy? That's a ring, I'm
Oh,
sure.
jeez, guarantee probably. So,
yeah. If all three were healthy,
oh yeah, with all three healthy, that's a tough lineup right there. So with this season, obviously, uh, to recap the season, we went 42-30, which I think is pretty respectable, especially for what we had to deal with injuries and the not having fans in the stadium. Uh, we finished the sixth seed. Uh, like I said, with injuries, CJ McCollum only played 47 games out of the 72, and Nurkic only played 37 out of the 72. So, for having two of our biggest guys out a decent amount of time, 42-30 is a pretty good record. Uh, what do you guys think as far as the season? How did it go?
I guess I'll start off. I'd say overall it was probably a season, but like I can't lie, especially at certain times, I was a little bit underwhelmed. Like I know we missed we missed CJ and Nurk for a lot of games, but I feel like this was one of the most talented rosters we've had in a few years. I feel like we should have been a little bit better, but like 42, like you said, is really good. I was probably expecting around like 45, 46, so it's just like it's around where we were. I just wasn't super impressed.
Sure, sure.
Personally was expecting around 48 wins, And if you go to all close games where we lost in the clutch, I think we would have gotten that. And considering CJ was out for so many games, and we only saw Nurkic, like a good Nurkic, in the last 20 games of the season at best.
Mm-hmm.
I think 42 wins is way overachieved for what we could have done. Like playing only Damian Lillard and Gary Trent and Robert Covington for the first half of the season. Getting out of the plane is an overachieve in my opinion.
Totally agree, and I agree. These last like 15, 20 games, we're starting to see Nurkic get back to how he
Yeah,
used to be, and it's starting to look great again.
yeah. Like Nurk came back a while ago, but like the Bosnian Beast is finally. If we
Yeah,
had him
for
for the whole
sure.
season, if we had him for the whole season, I think 48 is like definitely.
Oh yeah, easy 48, easy.
Yeah,
So you mentioned Gary Trent. Obviously, we made a big trade uh, for Norman Powell from Toronto for Gary Trent. How do you guys feel about that trade?
do you want to go first?
I can go first. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this trade. Um, Firstly, we was in our future because Norman Paul is way older than Gary Trent. Gary Trent is a guy we could develop after Dame walks away. Uh, and when it comes to the improvement to the win now mode, it certainly helps us on defense. But when it comes to scoring the ball, I think Norman kind of struggled more throughout the end of the season. He kind of struggled. Melo was the third best scorer throughout the last 10 games. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it can be a W trade, it can be a L trade. It all depends if he resigns in the offseason.
That's a big if right there.
Yeah, I feel mostly the same way. I have a lot of thoughts on this, especially since Gary Trent was probably my like second favorite Blazer on the team right now. So I'm like a really big fan of him since almost his year. I think like the year of the summer after is when I really started liking him. But so like I do think Powell is better for this season. My issue, I really like his ability to drive, and I think we were lacking that before. But what I didn't like about the trade was that one, he's an expiring free agent. He could leave. We have no control of that. Gary Trent was a restricted free agent. We could have kept if we wanted, even if and like Norman Powell is probably going to cost more too. But the other thing that I really didn't like was I felt like Gary Trent had more value. If we should have been able to get someone who was better than Powell, like Powell is better than Gary Trent, but I feel like we should have been able to get someone who was either significantly better or who wasn't expiring. So then, like
Absolutely.
that could, because right now, if he doesn't resign, it was like an awful trade. We're gonna be so much worse now. But I will say that even if he does walk, if he gets us to the Western Finals, I think that it justifies the trade.
Yeah, I mean, if we can make it to the Western Conference Finals, I think even if he doesn't resign, which it would suck if he doesn't, that's a major win for us.
Yeah,
Like we said earlier, he does a lot of the same things Gary Trent does. He's a good shooter. He did struggle a little bit when he came, when he came here. But the one thing I do think he does a lot better than Gary Trent does is driving in, creating, layups, dunks for himself. Where Gary Trent was more of like a drive in halfway and then step back and fade away.
yeah, exactly.
And I
He's
love
even
Gary Trent. I love Gary Trent.
I
and
think
Norman's even
everyone
better.
does.
Sure.
I was
And
sad to
Norm's
see
even
him
better
go.
than CJ at driving, not
Oh, I
not
I
as the
agree
player.
totally.
Absolutely, Norm is the second best driver.
Yes,
Hmm.
I totally agree. So with that, we're gonna move on to our next topic here. With our defense, obviously we know our defense all year has been terrible. I think we were second worst in the NBA. So I mean
Yeah,
that is horrible. But these last 20, 25 games, we've been getting better. And coincidentally, that's when Nurkic started playing better and anchoring the defense for us. So we were the second worst these last 20, 25 games, we've improved to the 16th best defense, which I feel is, first off, is a huge improvement, but 16th best is not a terrible spot to be, honestly, especially when you have the best offense in the NBA technically.
Um, Last 24 game 16, I think it's a real huge improvement. You said coincidentally it meets with Nurk's return, but it's not a coincidence. He's one of the best league rim protectors in the league. And I think adding Norman Powell, although he doesn't do the flashy defensive plays like Robert Covington does, I think that helps us a lot on defense. Because Gary Trent, although last year he looked like a positive defender, this year he was very negative. Um, and I think even in the last 10 games, we got like a number rating, defensive rating. So I think it's a very bright future for our defense with this roster.
We're trending up at the right time, which is exactly what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the last month or so is really encouraging with the 29 not going in. But right now, I feel like we're around middle of the pack. Not bad. Probably not a championship defense. I think only the KD Warriors have ever won without being a top 10 rating. So I still don't think that is realistic, but I don't know if anyone is expecting a championship.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of trade off defense for our offense. I think we put a lot of effort in our offense, which then on defense we have to rest. Lillard has to rest, CJ has to rest. So it kind of leaves us overexerting on offense to have the number one offense, or I think it's tied for number one. Obviously our defense is going to fall back, and when you have two undersized guards with Lillard and CJ at the 1 and 2, it's going to be hard to have a higher defense.
Oh, and also you mentioned that we were like around, I think, the 16th best on defense, but I was looking at our net rating as well, and we were third. So even though our defense is like 16th, our offense is so good that our net rating was third, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's pulling us up. Our
And
offense
it's a
is
good,
amazing.
it's a good chunk of the season too. It's not like just.
So what do you think we could improve on coming into the playoffs on defense? Like what, especially with us facing the Nuggets, what's something that we're going to have to really tighten down on?
For me, it's not a collective issue. I think we are settled in the play system. I think it's an individual improvement. We gotta get that Carmelo playoff D and that Lillard playoff D, because they too are possibly the worst besides Cantor. They are the two worst defenders we have on the rotation. But they, if they really put into it, they can be positive, and I think that will bump us even like third or fourth best in the playoffs when it comes to defensive rating. If those two can really clamp up and give it all in the playoffs, I think that's our biggest improvement.
I think you want to touch on this a little bit later, but I'm just quickly talk about it right now. But this matchup that we got with the Nuggets is really favorable for, especially since Murray's, because with Murray, that's a point guard that we need Damon CJ to at least slow down a little bit. Right now, their guard rotation is like Facu Campazzo and like Austin, maybe Monty Morris healthy. So we won't need to rely on Damon CJ that much. Even if there are like slightly negative, I don't think it'll hurt us as much as if we were playing another team or if Jamal was healthy.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's move into the playoffs here with the Nuggets. You already said Jamal Murray's out, which is unfortunate because I do enjoy watching him play. I think he's a very good
Yeah, I
player,
would have loved that series.
but it is fortunate for us. Dame and CJ now kind of doesn't have to rely so much on slowing him down on defense and then still going down and producing on the offensive end. So let's go ahead. Do we think this is our best matchup, our best possible matchup to move to the second round?
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think considering the teams we could have gotten with falling to the plane or facing the Clippers, which are a terrible matchup for us, in my opinion. I think the Nuggets are the best matchup, as you mentioned. Jamal Murray's out, which is it's really bad because I enjoy him watching him play. But having Lillard not having that role of protecting his 3 point and his driving, I think it's going to favor him. Although Campazzo can be dangerous because he does a lot of paint passes to the outside, and we kind of struggle defending that. I think it's a way better matchup for Lillard, and I think he can not put in a lot in this series, so he can be rested for the next one.
It's honestly like kind of cool that we were so close to playing the Clippers, which was our worst possible, and then like we just barely got to play the Nuggets, which are our best. And like I don't know about you guys, but the last day of the season, I was just looking at all these. If this game ends this way, like what does that mean for our seeding? And it was just we got so lucky with this. So many ways that we could have could have gone wrong, and we would have ended up, and that would have been really bad.
Yeah, that that
Uh,
that last game of the season was a big win for us, and watching the scoreboards for the other games the whole time was nerve-wracking because I
So
kept
nerve wracking.
fearing Dallas was going to come back and win, and I was just watching that like so closely.
Yeah, it was scary. And even the
losing to
Clippers,
the
like they
Suns was a blessing in disguise for sure. If Rocco made those 2 free throws and
Yeah.
we would have beaten the Suns, we would right now face the Clippers.
Yep. Isn't
I
that
wonder if
crazy?
I wonder if we won that game, would we have like throw the Nuggets game to them to like
You know,
force?
I don't think that's how Dame wants to play basketball. I don't
Yeah, that's
think
what I think
Yeah,
too.
I don't think he would be okay with that happening.
Yeah, I think the same, but I think the coaching staff would consider it. But
I
I don't
mean,
think they
from
would
a
let them.
strategic standpoint, yeah, you would probably want to, but
Hmm.
as a competitor, you don't want to lose a game on purpose, obviously. Uh,
Yeah.
so who needs to have a bigger series? CJ, who the last time we played Denver in the playoffs, obviously went off that whole series and pretty much single-handedly won us that game 7. Or is it Dame, who hasn't really performed very well against Denver in the playoffs?
I think in this
Between
case it's gotta be CJ. Purely because we've never really seen CJ and Dame ball out together. It's always CJ. If CJ gets a 30 bump, Dame is always on the low 20s. And I think Dame is ready for any challenge, and I think he can average 30 in the playoffs. And the question is on CJ McCollum, and if he starts round one with a good series, I think he can hold up with Dame, and both can have a really productive playoff run, and it will be really important for the combo guard to work.
I'm also gonna go with CJ because one, Dame is gonna get a lot more defensive attention from the Nuggets. So like CJ needs to capitalize on like either having the worst defender on him or just 2-on-1 situations or and also Dame, like honestly in Denver, like with the altitude, he struggles like a fair bit. So if he's struggling again, we're gonna need like CJ to play really well. If they're both playing bad, not gonna be good for us.
Well, and I totally agree. I think it's CJ as well, but I think also it gives Lillard just a little bit of rest, and it gives
Oh
him
yeah, that's a
he
good
doesn't
point.
have to
Yeah,
put so much energy trying to keep us in these games if CJ can do it. And then if we were to move on to the second round, I believe we're probably going to face either Utah or whoever the 8 seed is. That's something where
No,
Lillard could be.
we're gonna play the Suns or whoever the seed is because we're the 3-6 or
That's
we're the
true.
6 seed right now.
That's true. You're
oh,
right. You're right. I was thinking we were 5-4. You're correct. So
We almost were.
even more of a reason having to face either Chris Paul or most likely the
LeBron.
Lakers or Curry, you're gonna have to be on your game while that's going on. So I think CJ going
absolutely.
off and giving him some
Yeah.
rest, I think
I
is
also want to. Yeah, I agree, but I also want to throw out Norman Powell is probably an even bigger X factor because then he'll give both Dame and CJ some. And I was also looking back at the last Denver series, which probably isn't like the best indicator because like both teams are pretty significantly different. But like Rodney Hood was so huge for us. Like his numbers,
Very
I was
true.
looking at it. He not including Game 7 because he got hurt halfway through. He averaged 16 points on. I think I closed it, but I think it was like 58% from the field and 60% three. Like that's insane efficiency. And Norm is probably a better. Or we're gonna need him to like match some of that so that we can stay in even other than like even without Damon CJ's going insane.
You're 100% right. Rodney Hood was one of the biggest reasons we won a lot of those games last time we played them in the playoffs. He was huge for us in that series.
Mm-hmm. Good thing we have Nurk though.
It's kind of like polar opposites. The year we faced them, we didn't have Nurk.
And now, yeah,
Now this year they don't have Jamal, so it's crazy to think.
yeah, it's actually a lot of parallel.
Yeah. So, would you guys like to add anything else?
I'd like to add um, our bench productivity is going to be huge too.
Oh yeah,
Not just in this series. I'm not looking at this series as the it factor for Anthony Simons, Melo, and Cantor. I'm looking at the next matchup. It's either the Suns or most likely the Lakers. I think where Lakers like the most is bench depth, and the only way I think we can surprise them and scrub off the leads is by having a big bench. Is like forms. He's 43% from the season from three. Those three guys are really hot right now, and I think they're going to be a huge factor. Not so much in the first round, but throughout the rest of the playoffs. Hopefully, if we go through Denver.
So that leads me to my next question. What are our predictions for this first round?
I want to say that I would take us in 7 games because I think we all know like why like all of our we have a lot of things going right for us, but Jokic is most likely going to be the MVP. He's going to give us a lot of problems, and Michael Porter Jr. is a really good scorer on their side. So even though they lost Jamal Murray, they do still have a huge weapon that we're going to need. So I think they'll win. I think they'll win 2 games for sure. So maybe we win in 6, but I think I would take us.
So you're doing Blazers in 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going a different route. I'm going for a gentleman sweep.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
And this is why. Nurkic and Robert Covington are probably having their best time of the season right now. And I feel Robert Covington will be on MPJ and Nurkic will obviously be on Jokic. And I think they are so good right now that Denver can only turn one game against them. Jokic probably gonna average 24, 25. Jokic hasn't been shooting great from the 3-point line, and every time he goes to the paint, he's going to meet Nurkic, which it's going to be a real big challenge for him. And MPJ has got the best, arguably the best 3-and-D in the league. So I think they can pull it enough to win one of their home games, but I think we win in 5.
And I'm gonna say strictly just off of the matchup, I think we're gonna win in 6. I think I I totally can understand Denver winning 2 home games for them. I think with Lillard and CJ and them not really having Jamal Murray there, I think it puts them at too much of a disadvantage at the guard spot. And I think we take advantage of that. And I think we end up winning one on the road and, you know, winning 6. Hopefully.
One more thing I want to say, it's kind of going back to the we already covered, but let's say games 1 and 2, maybe 3 if it gets that far, but let's say games 1 in Denver, Michael Porter Jr. like he plays amazing, he scores like 25. And do you think that would that in game 3 and like the rest of the series, should we bring Derrick Jones Jr. back into the rotation to guard Michael Porter Jr., or do you think we should just stick with what we have and hope that we win the 2 at home and then go on?
Listen, if we got Wenyan Gabriel to fight against AD, we gotta bring DJJ to fight against MPJ. But I don't think MPJ is going to have a great series. He's still not a playoff experience. But
That's what I
absolutely,
think too, but it's
if we need that clamp, DJJ has gotta play minutes. Him or Rondé. I'm okay with either.
Sure.
But DJJ has more athleticism, while RHJ is more kind of like a stripping guy. Strip the ball, smother the shots, and MPJ is a guy that likes to dunk. So I think DJJ will meet him better at the rim if he pops off. So yeah,
I totally agree. I'm a huge Jones Jr. fan, so I think if we're struggling with guarding MPJ because he is a longer, taller guy, I think Derrick Jones Jr. is a perfect guy to come in and guard him. Even with him not being the great 3-point shooter, just the defense alone is enough. If Michael Porter Jr. is really torching us, just even him coming in there and making it more difficult, I think it's a win either way.
absolutely.
And
yeah,
it's crazy to
absolutely.
think that he's on the bench all the time and is not even playing anymore because I do like what he brings to our team.
Yeah, I loved his energy.
I always like to remind that game versus the Lakers where we won.
Yep.
He was literally the reason we
Yep.
were actually in the game and we won that. If he wasn't there, we would have been blown out easy.
Oh yeah.
He's he brings a different energy to the court. Rocco can do that too, but DJJ is more like a highlight defender, and that can hype up the team more to start clapping up more, hitting bigger shots. And I think he's definitely a guy that can come off the bench. He should be getting minutes already, in my opinion. I think it should be a 9-man rotation. Because if you're bringing in Carmelo, Anthony, and Cantor, who are all kind of negative defenders, I think you should bring in a positive defender too. But yeah, Stats wants his 8-man rotation, and he's going to do it. But I think if we struggle, he's going to give Derek some minutes for sure.
And him and Rocco, they both do things that a lot of people don't realize is they do a lot of little things that add up over time in games, and they might not show up in the stat sheet, or they might not seem at the moment like a big deal, but when you think back to it, there's plays that they make that change the outcome of the game over time.
Absolutely. Especially Robert Covington. One thing that gets shrugged by is his help defense.
Yes.
I think even when we got a Carmelo Anthony out there, I think when he's with Rocco, he can do good shot contests and actually grab a couple steal or two. There was a game where he played like 27 minutes and I think 18 or 19 were with Rocco, and that game he had 5 steals. So I think his help defense gets looked through a lot, but it's key to a lot of games we won this season.
Very much so. Anything you want to add, Fuad?
No, I completely agree. I talk to my friends all the time about like how Covington and Derrick Jones, they just do so many little things that you don't really notice until you watch game after game, just doing these little winning plays that help us. And I think that'll be huge in the
I as well. So I want to start off by just if anyone is listening to this, thank you for listening to it. We're totally doing this just for fun. We've never even, I mean, for me at least, I've never done a podcast. I've always wanted to. This is totally just for fun. We're gonna try to do it at least once a week, and then try to get the videos or the podcast out on a Thursday or a Friday. Um, any questions you have that you want us to answer? If you have it, you can. There's a Twitter page. There's our Discord server. You can come in and you can ask questions. You can give us takes that we can talk about, that we can respond to as crazy as you want. Trade Dame for nothing. Like, I mean, whatever you want. If it's a take, we'll respond to it. We're just here to have fun. We're here to talk about the Blazers. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, that's it. Let's enjoy the and the
Let's
play-ins.
enjoy the playoffs.
Let's get this win. Round one. Here we go.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. And as always, Rip City, baby.
Rip City, baby.